The call of the Hogs can be heard all the way to San Francisco.
You're listening to Pod at the Palace with Curtis Wilkerson on Inside Arkansas.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday and welcome into the show. Hope everybody's week is off to a great start. Mine's been off to kind of a weird start. Man, spent most of the day or most of the night on Sunday at the vet, the poor pup. I think I told you guys on yesterday's show when I was recording it that I needed to get him to the vet, and it wound up turning to a situation where we had to take him right away. He's good to go, by the way. Mr. Slim Jim's hanging in there. Struggling a little bit. Got him on some pain medication. He's a wiener dog. He's old, and his neck's bothering him. And it's just something that happens with that breed. But, man, that's a sad, depressing place to be for like 7 hours. An emergency clinic, like the only one 24/7 that's open in this area. And just seeing so many people in there with their pets that are going through it or maybe having to be put down or whatever, that puts you in a tough place to start the week. Had me shook up, man. But we're bouncing back, and it's good to be hanging out here with the Slim Man. But at any rate, got some a few random things that we want to get into today, including some notes and tidbits from around the country, some interesting stuff going on out there. The latest on the top remaining portal players who are also testing the draft waters, and then just the latest illustration of the Arkansas drop, right? The Arkansas commitment curse. It struck again in these rankings, and we'll have a little bit of fun with it and talk about that as well. But folks, the Pod at the Palace is presented by the Eye Center of Northwest Arkansas, where they set the standard for all your vision needs with award-winning, board-certified eye doctors who deliver the best of new vision care technology blended with that old-fashioned personal touch that makes you feel right at home. Don't forget to throw your name in the hat for that social media giveaway that they've got going on right now. The Eye Center is giving away a pair of Urker sunglasses, and those things are legit, luxury, handcrafted. They're made in both classic and modern styles for men or women. They're also giving away 50 units of Botox if you want to freshen up with a younger, smoother look with their minimally invasive treatment there. All you have to do is to qualify for the final drawing. Hop over on Instagram, throw a like, tag, and follow to the place and the person, 2 people that you got to get to, at the Eye Center Fayetteville and at Injector Olivia NWA. Hop over there, Instagram, like, tag, and follow. Your name will be entered into the mix there, and then you wait it out. The winner is going to be announced on May the 9th. Pair of sunglasses, 50 units of that Botox. Pretty good stuff, pretty good deal. A lot of value there. Make sure that you do that. It's easy. Everybody wants to win something, right? Okay, let's get into it. Get this thing rolling with a few random nuggets. I think a good place to start. I know y'all saw it. We talked about it just briefly on Inside Arkansas Live earlier today, but I mean, how about Eric Musselman picking up Chad Baker-Mazara out of Auburn? Oh, baby. That's wild. This is one where I think about it and I'm like, would he have done this at Arkansas? You know, like let's live in the hypothetical world where Eric Musselman was still here and Chad Baker-Mazara came available. Would Muss have got him to Fayetteville? He's got him in SoCal. This is an interesting fit. I mean, on one hand, I mean it's a hell of a pickup for Muss, right? You know, they've lost some guys there for sure, but the potential, not even hypothetical, but the backcourt of Rodney Rice, the Maryland transfer, Chad Baker-Mazara, and then fingers crossed for a full recovery for Elijah Arenas, and it sounds promising there. That's pretty good. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that can help you bounce back from a tough year one. So that's interesting. That man has some money to work with over there, apparently, at USC. But on the other hand, I mean, this is like adding a lit match to gasoline. In fact, I was talking to a buddy about it, and I was like, you know, this is kind of like those people who light up a cigarette while they're pumping gas, only you drop the lighter and it landed in the puddle of gas as you were putting the thing into your car. And it's just an explosion waiting to happen. The potential there for, you know, just viral blow-ups between these two is, I mean, it's absolutely off the charts. I'd almost bet my life savings that we get at least one public meltdown moment between Muss and CBM. And you just hope it's healthy, right? Like the way it was with Muss and Mason Jones when they could, you know, scream at each other on the bench and it worked out. Like that's just the kind of relationship they have. I don't know that I even think back to the moment. I don't ever remember seeing anything like that and being like, oh, big red flag, man. I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see how that works out. Bruce Pearl I thought was a great fit for a guy like Chad Baker-Mazara. I could kind of match his intensity there. It just worked. And Muss has some of those similar traits, but he might be a little bit more volatile. Is that the word that we should use there? I don't know. That's going to be a crazy pairing. One thing's for sure, I'll be more likely to watch those random late night, USC games, like the Thursday 10 p.m. Big Ten tips out there in Southern California. I'll be watching that now with my popcorn for sure. A couple other random notes, and then we'll get into the good stuff here. Remember the show we did last week about all the available high school seniors that are still left out there, like 15 of the top 150 that are still available? Well, one, Darius Adams, the best of the bunch, a top 20 player, visited Georgetown and is setting one up to Maryland. Come on, man. Georgetown? Arkansas could go out there and get a top 20 guy? I would have been all for it. There's not really as much of a need there. I mean, it's another guard. You have your freshman guard. So, I joke a little bit, but what I'm saying is there's good players out there that if that's the route that they want to take, and that's why we talked about it, some real value in the high school ranks late in the game. I mean, we're getting ready to flip the calendar to May. A lot of these kids are getting ready to graduate high school, and you're moving on to campus to start summer workouts like a month from today. And there's, a dozen or more 4-star, top 150 types of high school players still available out there. It's going to be interesting to see where they all wind up. Kelvin Odie, another one that we talked about, the West Virginia decommit, who I like a lot. Physical, explosive, 6'4", 190. Louisville was in and did an in-home visit with him on Monday, and he's currently on a visit to St. John's, which has like 25 players already. Hell, Rick Pitino was the guy who was like, I'm not recruiting freshmen anymore. Basically even said, I'm not sure that I'd even take a 5-star because I don't think you can win at a high level with guys like that. I'm going to go to the portal and get the older, experienced players. And I think there might be something to be said for that to a degree. But even he is seeing this now after making that statement and going, man, maybe we should give these guys a look. They had a Caden Lewis on their campus not too long ago, and now this guy as well. So I don't know. We'll see if Arkansas does anything with him at all, but it makes me feel a little bit better about us taking a full 30-minute show to talk about it, because you're seeing not just, some of the folks who are desperate out there at this point, but some legit, Louisville, St. John's. I mean, these are all going to be teams that are ranked up there in the same echelon with the same type of expectations going into next season as Arkansas. So it's not crazy. But let's get into it with our What to Watch segment presented by Bryant Technologies. We know Bryant Technologies is dedicated to delivering high-quality network infrastructure and security camera solutions. They take pride in their exceptional workmanship and commitment to keeping your business operations seamlessly connected and secure. Whether it's that structured cabling, security camera installation, digital signage, or TV mounting, Bryant Technologies has you covered. They service the entire state of Arkansas and all of the bordering states. Have them come out and help you with all your network and security needs. Give them a call, 870-883-0330, or check out their website at www.bryantstechnologies.com. Maybe instead of what to watch, it should be what to read based on what I'm getting ready to talk about. But at least this is what we are all keeping an eye on around these parts. So what to watch, I think, still fits. I read an interesting article. You can check it out on cbssports.com on their college basketball homepage there, about the stay or pro decisions that are still to be had for the top portal guys. Not all of them, and it's the guys who are in the transfer portal. So if you hear that and it's like, oh, NBA or back to college, what'd they say about Carter Knox? No, it's the guys who have entered the transfer portal, like the top end dudes who are also in the draft, and they have to make that decision. Am I going to start my pro career, or am I going back to college? And basically, it was Adam Finkelstein who wrote it, and I thought he did a really good job, where he was kind of comparing draft stock and where that stands and the money you can make compared to what your market looks like if you go back to college with NIL the way that it is right now. So I thought it was fascinating. A few things that I thought he pointed out that were really cool, and we'll talk about specific players. But he was just kind of giving some context for the type of money you can make based on where you get drafted. For example, the last pick in the first round, the 30th pick last year, yielded a $2.7 million contract. And you have to be drafted inside the top 24 to get more than $3 million, which we've seen reports, at least, that several guys are getting now in college. And so when people say, hey, if you're not a first round lock, you probably really need to consider going back to school if you're one of these top end guys. And that gives you a little bit of, numbers, some facts to kind of back that up. 2.7 for the last guy in the first round. And dudes are getting that. Dudes are getting that in college now. So I thought that was interesting. Now, for these first round guys, it's important to note that these aren't 1-year deals. I mean, they're multi-year contracts. So you have to take into account the full bag that's available there and really weigh that. But in fairness, it's also important to note that these are 4-year deals, but only 2 are guaranteed. After the first 2 years, you've got club options for 3 and 4. And so you may or may not be able to get that money, right? But a lot of these guys at the top of the portal, with the exception of like Yaxel and Boogie, honestly, they're flirting with that, outside the top 40 range, and they're looking at those 2-way deals, honestly, which are not guaranteed and valued at less than $600K. So in some cases, it makes way more sense to go back to college. If you're a fringe draft pick or a mid to late second round, like, you really got to consider if going back to class theoretically for another semester or something is worth it. To lose out on a bunch of money, man. Anyway, but what he is based off of draft projection versus NIL, basically thinking, just talking about some of these top guys, Yaxel, PJ Haggerty, he thinks will wind up going back to college, which I thought was interesting on the Yaxel front. PJ Haggerty, I get for sure. Although he's not going to get $4 million to do it, but he also, he's not going to sneak into the first round of the draft. So it makes a lot of sense for him to go back to college. Yaxel, I was interested by. I think the thought process from Fink on this one was that going up a level, doing this at Michigan with the success that Dusty May had this year with a guy like Danny Wolf could really get him into lock first round status, potentially top 20 status. I think that's where he's at. And then they've obviously, dropped allegedly a $3 million plus bag on him. So that's already kind of accounted for. Who else? Darion Williams out of Texas Tech. He thinks will ultimately come back to school. But then I want to give you specifics on Jameer Watkins and then Boogie, right? Because those are 2 guys that we care about. Jameer, from the standpoint of Arkansas fans, would love to have him, and Boogie because he was one of yours. And I think everybody's expecting him to go pro, hoping that he goes pro. And then you can flip a coin as to whether or not you'd be irritated if he winds up playing college basketball next year, because it's very unlikely that would be at Arkansas. Or you want to see him somewhere else. If he gets drafted, it's like, cool, man. One of us, you know what I mean? But at any rate, I want to read it here kind of point blank on what he said about Jameer Watkins. And some of this is pretty interesting. His draft range, he has him second round to undrafted, which is true. It's a wide range, anywhere from about 40 to, just being completely out of the field. The one I saw today from Sports Illustrated or something, I think had him at 48. So there's that. But the write-up on him, he said this is the second consecutive year that Watkins declared for the draft and simultaneously put his name in the portal. A year ago, he opted to return to Florida State and ended up second team all ACC after averaging 18.4 points, 5.7 rebounds, and 2.4 assists. The high usage role, though, isn't necessarily one that translates to the NBA, where his length, and I found this interesting, he was measured at 6'5", listed at 6'7", that was probably without shoes, with a 6'10" 3/4 wingspan. So on one hand, I'm like, oh, maybe he's not quite as tall as I thought he was, but good Lord, he's got almost a 7-foot wingspan. That's kind of crazy. His athleticism and defensive upside are all assets. While Watkins' shot, and you guys need to listen to this because I've heard a lot of people say he's not going to solve Arkansas's 3-point problems. You have to consider the quality of shot that he would be taking at Arkansas with other good players comparatively to what he was dealing with at Florida State, where the rock was in his hands at all times. Watkins shot just 32% from behind the arc this year, which we know is not great, but he was able to knock down 39% of his open catch and shoot threes, which he would have a lot more of those opportunities. So when we say, man, I could see a world where Watkins would wind up shooting 35% or better from 3 at Arkansas, we're not just making that up. And there's reasons that we would feel that way. He did have a negative assist to turnover ratio and is not likely to be much of a ball handler at the next level. And so what I found interesting about this is he did this exact thing last year, opted to go back to school, had a better year statistically, and didn't help his draft stock. Like he was in the exact same situation last year as he is this year. So he's got to look at it now. And for me, I'm thinking it's not go back and improve your draft stock. Although if he was on a team where he was more of a, and he wouldn't be a role player at Arkansas, but he wouldn't be the guy and the only guy, if that makes sense, around other good players, playing within a system like that, maybe that could help him a little bit because NBA franchises get a little bit of a better vision for what he would look like for their respective franchises compared to like he's not going to go in the NBA and just be the guy somewhere. That was part of the issue with Mason back in the day. So there could be some of that, but for the most part, it's all right. My draft stock is what it is. I can go ahead and start this thing now and we'll see what it looks like. Or I could go back to college and make a ton of money and probably just be able to have this exact same situation next year. Right? So you kind of already know what you have. Do you maximize the immediate gains? And there comes with a little bit of risk because yes, you'd have to think about, avoiding injury and everything like that. That's all very true. But at any rate, the bottom line that they have here, it says there is still very little traction for Watkins in the first round. So a two-way deal is the most likely scenario if he stays in the draft. Conversely, the bidding in college basketball would likely start at about 2.5 times that, which I 100% agree. I mean, remember what we said at the very beginning of this discussion, those two-way deals, if you get outside of the top 40 or whatever, you're that mid to second round range, it's $600K, non-guaranteed, whatever. He would be able to, he's a guy who I think will wind up ultimately commanding 2.5 to 3 mil in NIL. I mean, and then the two-way thing is going to be there for you next year. You just got to stay healthy. So it's a conversation to have. It's a debate that we can have. But this is why I've been so bullish on Watkins at the end of the day, being a guy that I think will ultimately kind of see the light, if you will, and be like, you know what, I can come back here and make bank and then try this again next year for sure. And I hope that's what we see. And then hopefully Arkansas is just like, screw this. He's the difference maker for us. We're all in. Here's our big money guy. We don't care if we hurt somebody's feelings and let's rock. Let's get to it. You'd love to see it, wouldn't you? I guess we'll see about the combine stuff. And man, it depends on where you look. Cause I think we'll get a combine invite, but his range of his projections is so volatile that he might not. He might be the guy that gets the invite to the G League combine and has to like play his way up. The top handful of dudes get called up then for the NBA combine. So maybe it would be a situation like that. I don't know, but we should start hearing about that. I mean, the NBA combine starts on the 11th, so the other one's before that. So I would imagine late this week and into the weekend, we'll start seeing those invites start to trickle out and get a little bit more info on that. Boogie Fland, his draft range, and this feels right, first to early second round. I know there's been some that have had him down there in the 50s or whatever. I really think that his stock is quite a bit higher still than some of those projections might believe. And the write-up, it says, this is an interesting one. Fland looked to be trending as a potential first round or even lottery pick in the first half of the 24-25 season when he was playing with notably more explosiveness than we saw in high school. He showed bursts of being an elite on-ball defender while simultaneously handling the point guard position with more ease than anticipated, 5.1 assists to just 1.4 turnovers. But Fland's production, as we know, took a notable dive once Arkansas entered SEC play. He shot just 28% from the floor through 5 games and unfortunately never got the chance to bounce back because a thumb injury required surgery in late January. Fland certainly still has a chance to hear his name called in the first round and could likely attract guaranteed deals even if he slips to the second. So there's some flexibility with teams once you get into that early second round range. And what they're saying here is because of his upside, because of where he did track and because of some of the things he showed early in the year, that even if he did wind up going, in the first handful of picks in the second round, he could be a guy that would still command a guarantee with that contract. So something to consider there. The bottom line, the numbers could be close. So it's likely to come down to due diligence of his representation as they source out the best options in both college and the draft. If he gets no guarantees from the NBA, he'll command top dollar in the college ranks. So there you have it. At the end of the day, though, I'm holding firm to it. I think Jameer Watkins comes back to college. I think Boogie stays in the draft. Boogie will almost certainly get a combine invite too. We'll see about Jameer there. Okay. Last segment, and then we'll wrap it up here for the day. What do we have? Oh, yeah. Oh, man. On3 released its final class rankings for 2025, the incoming freshman class. And wouldn't you know it, the Arkansas guys both got dropped significantly. And I got to tell you, I usually do just kind of roll my eyes at this kind of thing where it's like, oh my God, they hate the Hogs. Like Bay Fall made sense to drop him the way that they did. Heck, I was telling people for months that this was getting ready to happen. So whatever. But this is wild to me, which is why I'm going to spend several minutes talking about it here. According to the industry average, and so that's just taking all the reputable recruiting services that rank these guys, right? 24/7, Rivals, ESPN, On3. Acuff was number 9. Malik Thomas was number 11, right? Yet On3 updates, and they have neither one of them in their top 20, much less as 5 stars. That's absurd. I'm sorry. Darius Acuff is down to 21 and Malik Thomas down to 23. And then to add, they moved Nate Ament all the way up to number 2. It's over Boozer and Darren Peterson. What the hell have we seen in the last month that would suggest any of these things are reasonable or rational takes? I just don't get it. I mean, no disrespect, but, like Nate Ament was just, he was just okay at the McDonald's game, and he got played straight off the floor at the Nike Hoop Summit and the Jordan Bryant Classic, and I guess that's the cause to crown him here. Meanwhile, and say what you want about efficiency or whatever in these showcase games, but Acuff just went for 22, 4, and 3, and Leak put up 16 with 3 3-pointers, while Ament sat and watched at the Jordan Brand Classic, like the most recent outing there. Darius Acuff goes from being the top point guard in his class to outside the top 20 since the last update. Why? Because he led his team to Geico Nationals? Because he got invited to every major showcase game, McDonald's game, the Jordan Brand Classic, the Nike Hoop Summit? Because he did all those things, he drops off the face of the earth? Makes no sense to me. I'm sorry. It's just it's ridiculous, man. And part of this, just to be fair in my critiques with context here, but it's hilarious because they don't have any international scouts over there. But this is only a couple guys, but they've added international players into these rankings. So like Dame Sarr, for example, is in their top 20, and that makes sense. He should be. There's another guy I've never heard of that's in their top 10, but whatever. But that's only 2. Okay, and we're not talking about a 2-spot drop here. I mean, both of Acuff and Thomas are a dozen spots lower at On3 than they are to their average. That's a wide range. And so 2 international guys isn't making that big of a dent there. I mean, they're also getting passed all of a sudden by guys, and again, no disrespect, who haven't touched the floor in over a month because their season ended and they didn't have the accolades or the track record or the cachet to get invited to all these showcase events for the practices, for the workouts, or the games, which, by the way, all the reports on Darius and Malik were very, very positive behind the scenes for those things as well. So I don't know. I understand, being bold, daring to be different. I'm all for not subscribing to groupthink. Like, oh, so-and-so's got this guy ranked 5th or whatever. So-and-so has Arkansas at here in their rankings, so I better bump them up, whatever. I'm not for that. But there's that, and then there's just looking like idiots, honestly, with no rhyme or reason to what you're doing. And this one was baffling enough to me to where I had to talk about it. And, you know, like I don't like to talk about officiating being the difference in games. I hate doing that. Former coach, and would always be in a situation where I would find, 10 things from throughout the course of the game that I could have done better differently, or that our team could have done differently, and don't want to pin it on that. So when I get going on the refs, that's why I really feel like it's egregious. And I'm the same way here because I've been in the same situation, these guys lower level, but like when I was with Prep Hoops as a scout, it was me and a couple other guys who contributed to all the rankings for the state of Missouri. And then our feedback and our input was in all the national rankings as well there. So I understand the process and how it works. This is crazy, man. It's wild. Does it matter? No, not at all. It doesn't change, just because I see this, I'm not like, oh, yeah, Acuff and Thomas. Now I'm wondering about what kind of impact they're going to make for Arkansas this year. No, not that at all. But it's a little bit disrespectful, and hell, maybe it puts a chip on their shoulder. Maybe those two guys will look at it. Maybe we should be thanking On3 actually for doing this, because they put the chip on the shoulder of these guys now to where they're like, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was, or, oh, they're doubting me. I'll show you. And they come in here this summer and go crazy and improve and have an even greater impact than even we expected. But man, oh man, had to talk about it a little bit. Wild times in these streets. Hopefully we start getting some movement soon. I think, because I know people are still itching for, rounding out the roster. Can Arkansas be connected to somebody, please? What's going on? I think once we start getting some of these combine invites rolling in, we're also getting to the point here where also probably this week and moving forward, guys are going to start getting those workouts with certain teams, right? Where you're starting getting a lot of feedback there. We'll start to see some of these guys who become increasingly all in, or they say, hey, you know what? I've heard all I need to hear. I'm going back to school. And so we'll learn a little bit more there. But anyway, out of here for the day. Appreciate you guys. Make sure you tap in, subscribe to the Inside Arkansas YouTube channel. Find us where you find your podcasts, Apple, Spotify. It's been Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas. We're here every morning at 6 a.m. and we'll be back here again at the same time tomorrow. Y'all have a good one.